Hello, welcome. This is Business Breakfast coming to you live from our studios here in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital. I am Frank Komalape. Coming up in a moment, fresh concerns loom as Nigeria government set for the final stage of the airport concession plan. As lawmakers revealed, government could lose up to $90 million. So the build, operate and transfer arrangement. We'll take a closer look at what this means for the nation's aviation sector. Plus a breath fresh breath of air for Nigerians as federal government moves to end casualization of workers by 2022. Searchlight, therefore, is on the labor market and the effect of casualization of workers on household and economy over time. Thank you for joining us. This is Business Breakfast. So let's take a look at some of the top business headline making the rounds now. Importers of liquefied petroleum gas, otherwise known as cooking gas, has stopped importing the commodity. Investigation shows that the cost of the product increased by 240% for 12.5 kg, jumping from 3,000 to 10,000 naira to 100 naira between January and October. The Executive Secretary, Nigerian Association of Liquefied Petroleum Gas Marketers, BASIS, said the reintroduction of customs duty and value-added tax on imported liquefied petroleum gas were the major reason for the halt in each import by importers. Data shows about 65% of liquefied petroleum gas is imported into Nigeria, while domestic production accounts for about 35%, as discontinuation in imports could further increase cooking gas price if the situation is not resolved. And away from there now, the World Bank has stated that it costs more to move goods within Nigeria compared to the United States of America, saying that the cost of moving goods per distance domestically in Nigeria is about 5.3 times higher than in the United States of America. This disclosure was obtained in the Global Facility to Decarbonize Transport report newly published by the World Bank. The report further reveals that reducing the cost of moving goods through improving the effectiveness of transport networks and services is pivotal to re-establishing global trade. And in the meantime, the 36 state governors under the aegis of the Nigeria Governors Forum have lambasted the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, over his directive to pay the Paris Club consultant while the case is still in the Court of Appeal. The governors stated this in reaction to the directive by the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation in a statement yesterday by the head media and public affairs NGF Abdulrazak Bello Barkindo, insisting that Malami's directive was suspicious. The governors also declared that the decision by Malami to support the consultant who have been battling desperately to grab $480 million from the account of state and local government raises questions of propriety and the spirit of justice. And now the Central Bank of Nigeria has disclosed that the eNAIRA, Africa's first digital currency, has successfully completed 46.3 million naira worth of transactions in less than 2 weeks of launch. The currency's first week and a half, according to the Apex Bank, was a huge success, going by 400,000 new wallets registered in dozens of nations and clients making 12,500 naira transactions worth of 46.3 million naira. That's around $113,000. This feat was achieved in spite of customers complaining about a time-consuming sign-up process. Well, and that's it for now with the top business headlines. You're still watching Business Breakfast, coming to you live from our studios here in Lagos. Still to come, Searchlight, of course, will be on the casualization of workers and its effect on households. So we'll take a look at that in a moment when we come back from this break. Please stay with us. Glad to have you back now. Let's get straight to the business of the day. Let's start first by defining what casualization is. And to some definitions, casualization is the practice of employing temporary staff for short periods rather than make them permanent staff. This phenomenon is aimed at saving cost, according to many. Recently, the organized private sector unions released alarming data indicating that over 70% of the nation's workforce is in the private sector is casualized. So let's look at the effects of casualization of employment and prohibition of casualization in Nigeria Establishment Bill 2021, which is before the Senate. So our guest, Akin Fatoke, is the Chief Executive Officer of Chronicler and Associates, a communications consultancy firm. He joins us via the telephone now. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Akin Fatoke, for taking out your time for being with us on the program. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Frank, and greetings to iBrandTV, and frankly speaking, my greetings to the whole of Nigerians.
Thank you so much.
Friends of Nigeria who are listening to us. It's nice to be with you here.
Thank you so much. Let's start this way. Why casualization in Nigeria? It seems that it's thriving more in Nigeria than in any part of the world, because if you look at it, despite the Labour Act of 1990s, that is the laws of the Federation Republic of Nigeria in 1990. So the act provides that not later than 3 months after the beginning of a worker's period of employment with an employer, the employer shall give to the worker a written statement specifying the terms and conditions of employment. So help us better understand these conditions stipulated in that act.
Thank you again, Frank. Let's conceptualize so that we can all understand. You made a very brilliant definition of what a casual worker or what casual workforce should be, and I'm very happy you went to the macro. You went from the micro, you went to the macro to now make that point that Nigeria perhaps amongst the Committee of Nations will be one of the largest. You give a number of 70%. I know that will still be conservative. That will be higher. You find situations where you have large populations, in non-OECD countries, that is less developed economies, where all indices of development that you can think of, including education, functional education, health care, democracy as the way it should be practiced is not prevalent. What you have in such situations will be to have a casual worker. You ask me, what is the cause? It is due to lack of opportunities in the organized sector. People start working as casual workers. Pure and simple. Law of demand and supply is that where you have so many people, largely, and I say that with a bit of a respectful emphasis, largely unskilled. But where you have them in large quantities versus opportunities that are available in organized private sector, of course, you have no other thing than
but let me quickly come in. Sorry to jump in. To make a better sense of what you're discussing. I mean, when you talk about the unskilled labor, you have a lot of people who are well-read, trained as well. These are not on skilled laborers. Let me put it that way. They're well-read. They have all the capacities and all that you can think about. But do you classify those kind of employees under such condition? Do you subject them to such conditions? Let's start from there.
On a scale of 0 to 100%, I would say 99%. What does that tell you? Yes, skill is skill. Certification and education is just an aspect, it's something that takes you to the door. What will make you open the door, enter, and behave well within the door, produce,
right,
and do things the way you are asked to do is skill. You call it soft skill.
all right.
Skills of integrity, capacity to look at problems, innovation, thinking beyond the box. There has to be skills. So you have a PhD who is not skilled, and that is the point. Yet you can have my mother from the village who never went to school, or who is so skilled to the extent that she sent all her children to school. So skill now therefore means value add, entrepreneurial. You are capable of doing things at the right time, on time, and to deliver value for a farm, for yourself, or for the nation. So now, your question is a very interesting one. It's interesting in the sense that people have this mindset that, there are so many university graduates who are roaming the streets. Those are the ones that you mentioned in the those are outside the ones you mentioned in the 70s. So if you now put in the fact that our universities and tertiary institutions are turning out half-baked graduates who still have to go to finishing school in private sector, then you can be talking about some 80%, and as we speak, in 2021 to 2023, knowing fully well that we have gone backwards even in certification, in the kind of certification and the way and manner we have, structured ourselves. Therefore means that we are nearly 90%. Now, out of the remaining 10%, maybe about 5% find their way outside the shores of Nigeria, where they have gone to get some form of certification and some kind of education that is fit for purpose.
Are you suggesting, therefore, that those who are being casualized or working on that condition is as a result of lack of skills? Or, let's talk about the casualization itself, that concept itself. It's against the label of 1990. How do we address this?
Now, Frank, you have now raised the discourse to another level. We are not going to the macro. So haven't given that baseline. It is also possible for you to have skill and yet be in casualization. There is a difference between casualization and hired workers. On around the act that you mentioned, what organized private sector or public sector, what is done is that you say, okay, these are your regular staff, that's what you call them. They have certificates and stuff like that, and then they have some module of skills which you have to continue to upgrade anyway. Then you also have skilled people who also have certificates and who, for whatever reason of the demand and supply that I mentioned to you about, end up being hired workers. A hired worker is somebody that is employed directly by by an organization and given some terms and conditions, albeit you are not given all the rights, the privileges, the pensions, and what have you, which is now wiped off. Now, to now subvert that, what private sector has now decided to do craftily is now to now then say, okay, you are not my direct responsibility, and so I'm going to avoid all these attendant costs. I will look for somebody that I call a labor supplier. Won't call it casual. A labor supplier who will hire you, second you to us, bypass all those obligations of me being of you being a hired worker to me, now to be a hired worker by Mr. Frank,
right?
Seconded to Mr. Akinfatunke under limited terms and conditions. Now, the act you now mentioned also now then put it incumbent on those service providers. That's what they are called.
Okay, let me quickly come in.
That they follow a modicum of basic what do you call it now, minimum wage, pension, taking your payee, as the case might be, and then your guess is as good as mine.
Let me quickly come in. Right.
What you then end up doing is that you get very cheap skilled labor, pay little, take off whatever it is, their payee and all their deductions, and yet not pay to government, and then you get away with it. So it is a sign of underdevelopment of the highest hue. Now, when you talk about casual workers,
if you can hear me, can you hear me? Yes, just a moment.
You are looking at oil companies, you are looking at banks, generally, you are looking at financial institutions.
Yeah, point taken there. Just a moment. Can you hear me? Just a moment. I mean, the act actually stipulated that after 3 months, one who has been confirmed to be, who has been tested for 3 months, after 3 months, it should be confirmed a staff. Now, how do we ensure an effective reporting system to monitor this? Because it seems that a lot of employers, Nigerian employers, are flouting and are defaulters in this respect.
Hey, my dear brother Frank, I laugh in full day. Now, you have made an assumption, and it's a very reasonable assumption, that I, as an employer of casual workers, like you have said,
right,
I am obligated under the law that after 3 months, I should convert them or drive them off. So, let's be clear. It's either I convert them naturally, or okay, I cannot longer whatever. Then I put them out there. I go and look for some other ones. You understand the point I'm making? So people now, without that feeling of compassion, many outfits they do that. Now I repeat to you, I go back to conceptualization of terms. If that particular individual is my hired worker, that means I have employed him as Akifatunke. Then I am fully obligated, because I have to give him a letter of employment with my letterhead and what have you. But if it is a casual worker that has been supplied to me by a service provider, it's not my employee, it's not in my payroll. I pay him through my service provider. And so the regulation that you are talking about now lies on that service provider to now say, okay, now you've been there for 3 months, for 3 months and stuff like that. Well, I don't know. You have an option. Please ask people, and I'm talking from practical experience. You have an option, so they are not prepared to retain you. That's what they say, or they hire you and stuff like that. So you have to go. Then what then do you find? You see people now begging, oh my God, please don't do. I don't mind to do 6 months. I don't mind to do 1 year. And so you find people in that same kind of position. They are highly skilled. And I can tell you for free, I have seen situations where I had a casual worker who was so skilled, much more skilled than people that you call regular employees. And then so, you know what happens? You now begin to depend on that person.
Right.
What that organization is supposed to do is that they go through that service provider and say, look, you know what? I like to hire this person. I like to give him or her a chance to compete, and so that I can get him or her into my regular employment. And I can tell you for free, in an oil company, one of the best oil companies that this country has produced, seeing a casual worker who was so skilled, was contacted through his service provider,
right,
sat for the normal competency test, came in, and eventually led a segment of the business in and outside Nigeria. But that is few and far between. Majority are just out there, to just take on people, and I am not a profile. I don't want to profile anybody. If you put your ears to the ground, you look look at certain individuals or certain nationals. I mean, if you are Chinese company, if you are Lebanese company, if you are Indian company, it's all over the place. And of course, everybody wants to go out work there.
Yes.
And then you see the kind of conditions that these people work. It is worse than where a normal dog. I didn't say human beings now. Please watch me.
Let me quickly come in.
And then will be treated well.
Yes, you've actually talked about something we didn't even see in the picture. Of course, is a new thing you brought on the table, which is about the emergence of a go in between the employees and the employers, which is a new market perhaps. But how do we ensure, because the crux of the matter really is how to ensure social benefit and other securities for the Nigerian employee. That's what we're looking at. And of course, looking at the impact this will have on the household and by extension the national economy. How do we harmonize this, and how do we integrate this go-between service provider into the system to ensure that everybody is carried along?
Another very beautiful question, and I think I have an answer which I am going to circumlocute. That is, I'll go right round to try and explain. Number one, you cannot give what you don't have. Number two, if you have not planned well and planned properly, you just continue to immerse yourself in failures. The first thing, therefore, is to look at the macro, the overall, and make Nigeria productive. Make it productive. Situations where we have very few companies that are doing very well, they've paid all their taxes, they are now going to be asked to pay certain other levies. They will not be asked to be paid, at the end of the day, the government, because of, what do you call it, what is the word for it now? Some optimal performance in policy and what have you, now put a lot of pressure on these companies. And so these companies will tell you, yes, this is my bottom line, I've got to take my profit, I have to put some things back in it. And so something will have to go, and that will be training, that will be employment, which will continue to shrink. And when they look outside the window and they see PhD students, okay, and they see graduates out there asking that they want to be drivers, asking to want to be drivers, and that they will do everything, yes, they are trained and stuff like that. Where then do you want to draw the line? So, unto thyself be true. Let it start with, whether it's a senators, whether it's a House of Reps, whether it's a national, whether it is this, whether it is that the more we put undue pressure
right
on some of these outfits, the less they are capable of wanting to do what is right. So if you have, for instance, look at an oil company, education tax, tax, community tax, PIA is talking about the number of taxes, so many things that government is supposed to be doing is not done, is broken. And then these guys have now to build hospitals, now have to build schools, now to do finishing schools, eat into their profit. And then they look at themselves and say, okay, yeah, let's go to look for some of these quality people who are coming out of the universities, who are not big, but we can bake them into some folsom. And then at the end of the day, you look at it, every business wants to continue to make maximum profit anyway.
Okay.
And I said, you have just employed only 20 people. Come for a hearing. Well, they'll go for the hearing and they'll put all their books out there. All the things we needed to have plowed back. You have taken them, including those that you should not be asking for, that we have to pay for. So it becomes a nice situation.
Point taken.
Chicken or egg. Now, having said all that,
let's try to wrap your thought up now.
The point remains that people must be seen to be doing the right things, that despite all said and done, if it's only 10, if it's only 15, that on a gradual basis, we see how you are getting some of these people skilled in a way and manner that they become casual now. They become regular. The Nigerian Labour Congress that is supposed to be looking at this, another subject entirely, again, asking the question,
it's all right.
who is going to police the policeman?
I think we'll have to stop here. I'm afraid we'll have to stop here, but we will bring you back certainly to discuss, of course, the talking about the the prohibition of casualization in Nigeria established bill that is before the Senate for debate, and so we'll talk about what to expect in that bill comes 2022. I think that's where we will start the conversation when we bring you up next time. Thank you so much, Mr. Akinfatuke, Chief Executive Officer, Chronicler and Associate. Thank you for your time on Business Breakfast.
It is absolutely my pleasure. Law is made for man and man not made for law. So whatever it is that we are looking at, it should get a very clear and open handing, and let us put legislation that we know will work.
Thank you so much.
Let's tackle the root cause.
Thank you so much.
And not the effects. Please remain safe, Frank.
Thank you so much for your time once again. You're still watching Business Breakfast, coming to you live from our studios here in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital. Still to come, fresh concerns as Nigeria government set for the final stage of the airport concession plan. As lawmakers reviewed, government is losing up to $90 million. We'll take a moment. When we come back, of course, it will be time for deeper conversation on this discourse. Stay with us. Welcome back to our second part of the conversation. Now, the move by the federal government to concession 4 major airports across the country as part of its developmental plan for the aviation sector has aroused expert debate on the necessity of this new move. Recall the federal government recently closed its bidding for the 4 major airports with a plan to announce new concessionaires soon. The airport to be concessions include the International Airport in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt and Kano, respectively. According to a recent statement from the Minister of Aviation, Hadi Serika, the concession is built to run for 20 to 30 years tenure in build, operate and transfer model. So let's explore this development by the government and what this means for the Nigeria aviation sector. Retired Captain Samuel Akieleka Creek is former director of the Nigerian College of Aviation Technology, Zaria, Kaduna State, and former government safety inspector. He joins us now via the telephone. Thank you for your time, Captain, for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Good morning. Nice to be on air this morning.
Yeah. Now, this is not the first time the government will be embarking on a concession arrangement. A case in point is that of the Murtala Mohammed Domestic Airport Terminal 2. The domestic terminal of the international airport situated in Lagos and its facilities, which were developed under a build operate. For us to understand, before we get to why the Buhari administration is embarking on further concessions, help us to understand the build to operate agreement concept of this concession.
Thank you so much. To start with, everybody will agree that the government is no longer in a position to fund further development in aviation, considering other areas competing for attention. So the idea of bringing in private money, is now a global thing, really, because government has so many responsibilities. So if we all agree on that, so what is the best way forward then? We've tried privatization, which has failed woefully, I would say, because we copied the wrong model. We copied the British model instead of the American model. Okay, let me analyze the two differences, because I don't want to give an idea. I just want to state the fundamentals so that people can make up their minds if they use those fundamentals. Now, in any business, there are two critical factors. That is the management and the funding. So the funding comes with the cost of money. The cost of money means you don't have that money, you have to go and borrow. To borrow, it's only government that can borrow at a sovereign rate in the percentage, single digit, usually about maximum is about 2%, usually between 0.5 to 1.5%. But a private guy will borrow higher than that. So when it comes to But then for government to borrow, for any project to borrow, government must have the ownership. So the ownership matters. So if the ownership retains the government, so government can borrow at a lower cost, and government can really do more because of that interest rate, because of that cost of borrowing. But if it is, and not only that, only government can raise bond cheaper. So the government can go to the public, I want to raise bond for aviation in Nigeria, and people will subscribe from all over the world. The private guy cannot raise bond because the private person can go under, and how will they get their money back? They know government will continue. So for ownership, it's better for government to continue to own those. Now, what about the management? It has been found out that globally that government is a bad manager of business. Not a bad ownership, but bad manager of business. I'm sure that is why they came out with the idea of government has no business in business. And if you look at our own experience, there's nothing wrong with all the government businesses, even those who are privatized, but it's a management aspect. So what the Americans did was, they preferred to outsource the ownership, the management of government enterprises to the private sector because they can do it better. And that was what the Chinese have copied, and the people in the Middle East, Dubai area and everything. Government retains the ownership because they can borrow money cheaper, then they outsource the ownership. But then, outsourcing ownership like this concession we're talking about, unless there's a performance bond. Without a performance bond to the questionnaire, they may likely run down the business, the project. So I would suggest, that is the only suggestion I'm making after taking the fundamentals, that whoever is opposing this must insist, there's a performance bond to the questionnaire. They must put some money down in case they run it down so that we can always go. Now the money they put down, government can reinject it into the business, or government can put it and spend it elsewhere. But they must put something down, which is refundable at the end of that tenure. But they must put something down so that they don't run down the business.
Okay, are you saying that this concept in this particular agreement, the concept the government is deploying is best at this time when you talk about build, operate and transfer for these 4 major airports?
That is what I'm saying. I don't know what ICRC is going to propose to the Federal Executive Council, but I am saying that those of us who are opposing it, what we should see is that, okay, look, if you want to do this, since government is better for government to retain ownership because they can borrow cheaper, okay, it's management that is the problem. Now, if the management want to give that to the private sector, they must bring their own money, and that money is not just the money, say, look, they're giving government money. No, that money is a guarantee, it's a performance bond, that in case you run down this my business, this is what, after auditing, at the end of the day, this is what, at least I'll be able to hold on to this, so that I don't lose 100%. You know what I mean? So unless ICRC, inputs that into the agreement, I will not support it. But I will support it as it is because government doesn't have the money. We need private money to come in to expand aviation. But it's not only the airports, to expand aviation generally. But it's better for the government to retain ownership so that they can go and borrow money cheaper. Because when you borrow money cheaper, you can do something. The MM2 could have been bigger if government had followed that. Because instead of the Babalaki, I forgot the name of the company, instead of him going to the bank to borrow at a higher so rate, if the government had retained ownership, they have borrowed cheaper, and that thing will have been about 5 or 6 times that size. If government had retained ownership, but for Babalaki to manage it.
Right. Oh, okay. Let's talk about Lagos, especially because these 4 major airports include Kano, Port Harcourt, Lagos. You talk about Lagos as well. Lagos account for about 60% or so of the international flight. How do you think this will? What do you think this will bring to the table, especially for those operators whose major anchor it's within Lagos here, or Southwest, let me put it that way. And how do we ensure that everyone take home at the end of this agreement is secured?
So Lagos, like you said, 60% of the market. Lagos needs this sectioning the way I have packaged it, more than any of those ones, any of the other three. Why I just say Lagos needs that kind of money. Lagos, let's suppose there's expansion in the region today, and most of them are in Lagos because the market is here. And somehow by magic or fortune smiling on us, about 50 new aeroplanes arrived into the aviation market today. Where do you think they're going to park them? There's nowhere they can park them. There's nowhere to park them in Lagos. There's nowhere to park them anywhere. So, and you cannot go and park them in all these other airports that are not, and because the market is here, that means you have to fly them empty to that place and fly them back to come and operate out of Lagos. So Lagos must have that to expand. Now, where will government have the kind of money to create a ramp that will accommodate 50 new aeroplanes? It is not possible unless the private money comes. So that is why I support the government's direction, in trying to develop aviation further. But there must be a performance bond. Government must retain ownership so that government can go instead of the private sector going to borrow money at exorbitant rates. Because at the end of the day, is the travel public that is going to pay for it. So it's better we give it to somebody that can borrow cheaper so that the impact will be less on those of us traveling. Okay? So at least the impact is less on our pockets. So government ownership, it is one I support. Then the management should be, that is whether you call it concessionaire, whether it's called a concessionaire, but the management be outsourced to these people. But outsourcing it to them is not that they just come and do whatever they like. No, they must put something down as a guarantee.
Right.
They must put a bond down. Once they put that bond down, that bond will give them back at the end of that 30 years they're talking about. They'll give them back their money. But after auditing what they have done, what is left, there must be a sharing formula within these 30 years. Okay, that government, not that they just run it, they not give government money. No, we must be sure because I'm the owner. They're only managing it for me. I must have something, no matter what, even if it's 22% or 30% or 40%, it doesn't matter. I must have something of that profit.
Mr. Cochrane, let me quickly come in here.
Something down.
Some of the concerns is that if Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria generate about 70 billion or 75 billion naira yearly.
That's taking feed in aviation. That's problem.
Pardon?
That's taking feed in aviation. They cannot do anything.
Because that's what we're getting, that if they generate about 75 billion.
About 1 trillion in aviation. Well, all these 70-something billion. No, it's because it's still inefficient.
So if this figure is not correct, I mean, how about the fact that the concern is that they can actually manage 8,000 because they have about 8,000 staff in their workforce, that wouldn't be too much of is staff to manage and to pay for.
One of the reasons why concession management is to capitalize on effective workforce.
Right.
Okay. The concessionaire is not an employment agency. Government is an employment agency. I mean, that is what all over the world has government is an employment agency. But the concessionaire is not an employment agency. So those people will have to prove that they are worthy to remain on the job. So that means the mentality will change, everything will change. Because what matters is that the person who has put his own money down to manage this thing knows that at the end of the day, if he does not run it well, if he's run down, he's going to lose his own deposit.
Right.
Okay?
Let's try to wrap it. Okay. All right, point taken. Let's try to wrap it up now. Should the government go ahead, because the process is on now, the request for qualification of bidders have been closed. I think the next step is that the government is going to be inviting them for proposal, and that should scale through to the next step. Should this scale through? What does this mean for Nigeria sector? Nigeria's aviation sector, I mean to say.
Yes, the aviation sector and those opposite outside the aviation sector too, in and out of the aviation sector, is to look for this for those factors I've stated. If that is what they, instead of saying no, it's not possible, it's not, no, let them go ahead, but you must include these factors, these guarantees. Once they do that, government has no choice. But it's okay, we're going to do it anyway. But these are the guarantees. There's nothing wrong with these guarantees, except somebody that does not want to, that has the sole purpose of running it down. If you don't have the sole purpose of running it down, what is wrong with, okay, you know what? I will put in, I will submit a performance bond. Because I'm so sure of myself that I will not run it because my money is at stake. So that is what we should be asking government to include. The ICRC should include as part of what, the conditions for concessioning.
I think we should leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Retired Captain Samuel Akinyele Kokrik, it's former rector of the Nigerian College of Aviation Technology, Zaria, Kaduna State. We thank you for your time on the program.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
You're still watching Business Breakfast coming to you from our studios here in Lagos. Still to come on the program, the Nigeria Exchange Group closed on a positive note amid sell-off, and buy interest has benchmark all-share index appreciated by 293 basis points. And so we'll take a break now, where we'll come back, of course. Ambrose Omodion is standing by to take us through the sentiment of the day. Please stay with us. Is the last lap of the program now. The Nigerian exchange market yesterday reached a new 52-week high of 43,246.87 points, exceeding the previous 52-week high of 42,412.66 basis point January. Then, of course, by 1.97% after immense buy and interest, mainly in shares of MTN Nigeria, First Bank Holding, and Stanbic IBTC, including Airtel Company. Now, the exchange group closed on a positive note amid sell-off and buying interest as the all-share index appreciated by 293 basis points, closing at 43,246.87 basis points, to reflect a growth of 2.93% from the previous trading day and a year-to-date return of 7.39%. Meanwhile, the market capitalization increased as well by 643 billion naira. So at the close of market on Monday, the stock exchange market value stood at 22.57 trillion naira from 21.93 trillion naira in the previous trading day. So let's get to looking at the sentiment dominating the market. Mr. Ambrose Omodion is Chief Research Officer, Investigator Consulting Limited. He joins us via the telephone now. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Ambrose Omodion, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Yeah, actually, as you said, the momentum that turned the market around yesterday was as a result of investors cashing into the news of CBN giving license to approval to Airtel Africa and MTN Nigeria, the two giant telecommunications in Nigeria. And before now, the two companies' performance has also been positive, especially that of MTN. Consistently in the last 3 quarters, they have grown their earnings successfully. That you, as an investor, will see that the top line and the bottom line of this company has been in green. Not only that, they also paid a dividend, 3 dividends to investors to compensate them for having confidence for their last quarter, for the half year, which is also a good direction that something is happening. And this company also have successfully approached the bond market to raise one, and they had oversubscription, telling that both institutional investors and local investors, foreign investors, have confidence in these communication companies. And all over the world, check every commission that is into this payment service bank that they are giving license, they are all doing well because they have the market. Know that data is one of the areas that these telecoms
Right.
Because of data economy that is going over the world, and also e-commerce here and there. On that note, investors are seeing what were real potential opportunity that this company can sustain their growth. And when a company sustains its earnings, then the likely to grow its dividend payout. And when you are growing your earnings and your dividend payout, your price is
Okay.
likely to raise in the up direction. On that note, they are taking advantage of this low price of this stock, especially that of NTN, to cash in now at the position at the
Okay. Okay. Mr. Ambrose, hello, can you hear me? I guess we lost your audio there. Please, we will have to bring you back. Our time is gone, but we'll have to bring you back tomorrow. Thank you so much for your time. We're losing your audio. We can't just get you clearly, rather. But we have to bring you back tomorrow because of our time. Thank you so much, Ambrose Omodion, Chief Research Officer, Invest Data Consulting Limited. We appreciate your time. Yeah, you've been watching Business Breakfast coming to you live from our studios here in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital. And of course, this is where we anchor. Of course, we drop the show today, and we'll be back again tomorrow. I am Frank Omalape. I'll see you again.